As usual, you guys know this is the Real Critic Roundtable. I'm Reggie Ponder, the Real Critic, and this is where African American critics come to discuss, debate, and have some fun. I always get to have some fun when my friends come on. They've been busy. They've been busy. So I asked Kathia, who is here today, I say, "Hey, Kathia, you been busy?" She says, "A little bit." That means
I
she's
mean,
been.
it's been normal stuff, you know what I mean? But at the same time, being more mindful about taking time out to be in my life, you know?
No, for sure, but you had a real hectic I guess moment or section with doing Sundance, right?
Yeah. I saw 41 films, 16 shorts. Mhm.
41 films.
41. You
So
start off really early. You start off at 9 a.m.
so I have to. I didn't even have this on my list to talk about, but we got to talk about 41 films. I mean, what was so? What was your big takeaway from Sundance overall? With
I mean,
41 film, you said 41 films and how many shorts?
16.
Wow, that Katya, you put in some work. So tell me what your overall take was for that.
Um, okay, so my thing is like we're at home, especially if you have an all access pass. You're at home and your responsibility, I feel like I always get on people for, especially when it comes to award season. One of the reasons we don't get the representation that we look for is because people don't watch all the films, right? And I'm like, whether you like the filmmaker or not, I'm like, I sat through the French Dispatch. That dude is not my cup of tea. But the point is, they sent me the film. I saw it. I watched Licorice Pizza. You know what I mean? So the point is, with Sundance, especially because so many of the films coming out of Sundance we're finding are making their way into award season. Like we've been talking about Coda. It seems like 2 years, right?
That's right.
And here it is. The rest of the world. We're like, okay, go and understand why we all love this film. So um that is one of the things. So for me it's like, okay. And also, my personal opinion always is that the films coming not in the premiere, but the films coming in the other section, like the US dramatic, the world dramatic, are always better. They tend to be better. The stuff that has been my experience with Sundance is the stuff that is on a premiere and has all these stars, and then you're sitting there, you're going, ooh, this ain't hitting like they think it's hitting. And then you'll see, a Bolivian film about indigenous Bolivian people about, it has a rain drought, but it's a married couple that's been living there for a long time. And the husband is adamant about protecting their way of life, about protecting, the llama farmers. And it is beautifully shot and beautifully portrayed. And the movie is in um, the indigenous people language and in Spanish, which is also super important because, again, when we look at the face of Latin America, we always see white and not understanding that the original people are the indigenous people. So to have a film like that, and my husband, who's not that's not usually his type of thing, thought it was beautiful. There's a scene in there, we both been married a long time, and you can tell they've been married for like 50 years, where his health is deteriorating, and she's sitting there working on her project, and he comes over and he lays his head on her lap. And we don't see that in movies that often. Intimacy, tenderness, that connection you have when you've been with someone a very long time. And that's what we have in that scene. And we don't need, like, you don't need to speak that language to understand what is happening between these two people. And that's why, I'm always very curious. Did I love everything I saw? No, but honestly, I always say this, and our friend Carlos says this: watch foreign films. Go sit and spend a day watching things that aren't necessarily things that you would normally see. That's why we go to film festivals. And this, films like that where you're like, oh, and you're crying, and you're just like, you know what I mean?
I
There's a
do.
beauty.
I really do understand what you mean. And so I want to say for the majority of my film critic life, I b- just because of having to work other jobs, I never saw more than maybe one or two foreign films a year. I want to see more, but there were even blockbusters and things that I never saw just because of having another job. Just not being able to spread my wings. And I will tell you is that I agree with you. Is that once you see some of these different films, you're like, wow, they did a really good job. I know we talked about this, but I'll bring this up. It doesn't have anything to do with Sundance. But when you look at a movie like Parallel Mothers, I I really really liked it. I didn't kind of like it.
Me too. I
I
liked it too. I think it's Penelope's best work
it
in
was
a long time. And it is, and I speak Spanish, but even it's just a well-made film. It's a well-acted film. It's giving you a different type of perspectives. And you're sitting there and you're like, "Ooh, no, girl, are you really? Wow, okay. You will make this decision, right?" And you're in this story. You're invested.
you are.
Like you brought up this film.
You're so in the story. So each year, what I try to do, I'm not even close to what you do in terms of watching foreign films. But so, for instance, I know we'll talk about the Oscars. I I know I didn't see all of the foreign films on the Oscar list, so I'm gonna have to do a little bit catching up to so I can catch a couple of them. But yeah, I'm really glad that you got a chance to at least talk to us about your 41 films. I mean, Katia, give me a perspective. Did you do that in a week?
I did it in the 2 weeks. So the
Oh, in two
way
weeks.
that I set it up was starting my day at like 9 a.m. and finishing like 10, right? With don't get me, I did eat and I walked the dog and I got some air. I wasn't like,
Ooh,
you know what I mean? But and also the shorts, I'm always very, I used to not be I always tell my I used to be like I need to be better about watching shorts, right? And there's a lot, and the crazy thing is, two of the films that we really loved were shorts that got made into features. So a lot, so no, not two, three. Emergency, Honk for Jesus, and Nanny were shorts that got made into features. So a lot of what we're getting in the feature in the future, and the list goes on, has come out of what we're seeing in the short. And there's been some really like interesting things within excuse me, that short span of time. You know what I mean? And again, I was like, I really wanted to push myself, and I watched some stuff. I mean, that was a day where I kind of like made myself super sad because it was like I watched three films and they all had to do with abortion, and I was like, "Oh, girl, what did I do to
way too
myself?"
much. Way
Yeah, I
too
was
much.
like, "That's way too much." So I was like, I need to break this up with some levity. But a lot of the stuff was like, I don't know the filmmakers, I don't know who's associated, I don't know what to expect. I went in blind. And I do think that's really important. You know what I mean? Obviously, caught documentaries, I love documentaries. So again, I think we all have to do a better job, to say we're especially in this climate that we're in, we're given the privilege of going to film festivals or having them come to our home. You can now have your family members see why we love the things we love, why we love this profession, right? And
No,
again, it
it's
makes
so
people
true.
like my husband see things that I know other than with screener season. Um, look
He
at certain things.
he would never see
Yeah,
any.
he's not sitting down for Master or Honk for Jesus, you know what I mean? But he's like, hey, you've been like, this looks interesting, or Emergency. He was just like, now we would have been done. We would have we there's certain, or we don't, if we are in a space, Reggie, as black people, and there are some ghosts, we not staying. That movie would have ended in 5 minutes, right? We would have
That's
gone
fine.
back to housing and we would have said, you know what? I need a new room or I need a refund so I can relocate. Because what I'm not about to do, spend a whole semester with a whole bunch of crazy stuff happening in my room.
No, that is so true. So it's really good. I know we got a couple of festivals coming up, and we'll talk about them at another date. We got a couple of movies on the slate, but before we get into that, we there is a piece that's out that I really want you to talk about a little bit more than myself. I'll talk about it as well. But you got a chance to actually have a one-on-one interview with W. Kamau Bell about his four-part docu-series. We need to talk about Bill Cosby. I'll start because I want to really give you the floor, given the fact that you got an in-depth opportunity to speak with him. I spoke with him a little bit on a roundtable, but I'd be very interested in that one-on-one conversation. I will tell you is that from a ha-ha funny perspective, and even from a real perspective, when it says we need to talk about Bill Cosby, I was like, do we really? I know we do, but because the conversations that are outgrowth of that conversation are very, very important. And there's a lot of different tentacles and different ways in which I think that you can go and talk. But most importantly, obviously, is the way in which we devalue women in this society. And that conversation came out loud and clear. What I particularly liked about this piece, and this is not talking about my discussion with him, but what I particularly like about this piece is that he had those people who he interviewed a number of people who Bill Cosby had raped, and I think that all it was a good juxtaposition from showing all the things that Bill Cosby did to improve society and Black culture and so on and so forth, but to also have the voices of women there. So I really appreciate that. I'd be really interested in your conversation. I know you also did a huge article on this as well. So talk about it a little bit.
Well, I went into it just being like, hey, I've lived in the Philadelphia area for over 30 years. Central Jersey, went to high school in Lawrenceville. When we moved to this country, we lived in New Jersey. I lived in Trenton, then Lawrenceville. And then my parents lived in West Windsor. So we've always been Philadelphia adjacent, moved to this area in 1988 for college, and explained to him that I was a Temple grad, that a lot of people at the paper that I contribute it's a Philadelphia paper, are also Temple affiliated. A lot of them went to the high school that Bill Cosby went to, Central. And so the conversation in our area is obviously going to be a little bit different. And the fact that I was very clear, it's like, he spoke at my graduation. My husband's in my graduation class of 92, Temple University, and appeared at my sister's in 2008 via video. It was one of the things.
Hold on for 1 second, Kathia. I think we got a guest joining us, and that's Samuel.
Hey, Sam.
Hey, how you doing? What's going on?
Good.
Is in the house. He said he might join us. Samuel Leggett is in the house, you guys. And as you know, and we've said this before, this is the Reel Critic Roundtable. You see it says Kathia Woods and Reggie Ponder, but we got somebody else joining us today.
Live from the basement or from the secret location.
From the secret location, because he's supposed to be working.
Hey, that's exactly true.
He's supposed to be working, but he's gonna provide us with a little bit of time. Hey Samuel, we're in the middle of talking a little bit about we need to talk about Bill Cosby. Did you see that at all?
No, I didn't. I didn't know if I could actually emotionally handle it. But I'm curious to give my input on what you guys think about him, or anything about what the documentary really was trying to explain to you guys. What was you guys' take on it? What was it really trying to convey in y'all's opinion?
Before Kathia goes, because I just talked about it just a little bit, but Kathia actually got a chance to do a one-on-one interview with W. Kamau Bell, and we were just about to get into that a little bit. But because you asked, my take is that the title made me want to say, do we really? almost the feeling that you had, do I really, really want to delve into this? Is this a conversation that I really want to have?
Right.
When you leave, you know that it's a conversation that we have to have. And I think that on balance, Katia and I have talked about this
Offline.
offline, is that on balance, he showed the positive, and he showed the craziness and negative parts of Bill Cosby. So I think on balance he did a good job. I think the biggest thing that comes out of this is that there are a number of conversations that we need to have as a society, and specifically as a black community, that we need to have. And I think that he is forcing us to have those conversations. And with
Right.
that, I'm going to turn it back over to Katia, who's just about to get into um, her experience talking to him. She wrote a major article actually for her newspaper as well. So Katia, go ahead.
So I was explaining to Reggie, I'm a Temple grad. Bill spoke at my graduation at my sister's. So we're both Temple grads. My husband is, and my daughter's at TU now. And I've lived in this area for over 30 years. So Bill Cosby, huge fan of the Cosby Show, everything. So Bill Cosby has been a big part of my life. And of course, a lot of the people that I work with, whether it's the high school or again, Temple, or just being Philadelphia people.
Yeah.
I, prior to this, believed the victims. And the Jews, and I'm also a survivor of sexual assault. So I look at this a little bit from a different lens.
Yeah.
Then the other thing too is what I thought, in my opinion, what come out that was really, really well. He showed balance. He showed positives of Bill. This wasn't a hit piece. This wasn't like TMZ, like boom, 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 boom. He's just
Right.
crap, right? He showed what he did as far as integrating the stuntman union. He showed what he did, the fact that he was the first Black man to have a co-starring role on a television show, that he won an Emmy, all these things, what he did for the landscape of television, what he's done for HBCUs, all of those things. But at the same time, he also established that this behavior has been going on through Bill Cosby's entire professional career at every possible stop. And also he didn't just show the white victims, which I think, a lot of us in the Black community get so hummed up at, well, these are white women talking crazy about a Black man, as if that makes things better. But the point is, he also showed the Black victims. And he showed the interview with Larry King, where Bill Cosby very comfortably talks about Spanish fly and putting that in someone's drink. All that information is out there, right? That came out of Bill's mouth, not Kathia's mouth. And what I appreciated, what Kamau did is talk to various people. He came to Philadelphia and he spoke to people in Philadelphia. And one of the things that I asked him, how far back does this go? Because I'm a firm believer you don't start all the way out like in 1980, right? I asked, did you speak to anybody he went to high school with, or anybody that he was at TU with at the time? And he said that none of those people wanted to come on camera and talk about it. Now, that's a very interesting thing. Now, did none of those people want to come on camera to support this, or they just were like, I don't want to get caught up in mess? Those are two different types of perspectives. And I felt like, I explained to him that here in Philadelphia, people are very strong about their own. And it's very hard for somebody that represents our city, represents quote unquote Black excellence, has done so much, especially to elevate my alma mater. And for a while, it was a little hard to say that you went to Temple, because people looking at you like, well, did you know? Were you in it? I'm like, sir, I graduated in 1992 and kept it moving.
Right.
But the issue still is that it's hard because we don't have so many people that were on that level. It's a certain betrayal on a certain aspect, but I want to be very clear. He didn't do this. I don't feel like he was like, I'm judging Bill Cosby. He gave you the information, in my opinion, and then it's up to you to digest it.
Yeah,
It's very hard to be like, oh, and also, this is the other thing, I always say this to people through my own experience. It took me a long time to say it out loud to let people know, right? Like people in my inner circle knew, but I think I was maybe in my 40s until I publicly started mentioning that I was a survivor
Mm,
because of the how the conversation goes in our community. I
right.
did not feel like being subjected to questions about what did I do, what was I doing, all that other nonsense. I'm not entertaining that. I know what happened. I know what I went through. I'm not explaining myself to you. Go have that
Right.
conversation with the person that did it. But the other thing too is I think about that's why I asked that question. What about all the women that never felt comfortable enough to come forward or saw what the women that did come forward were being called and were like, you know what, I'm good. I'm good. I'm not putting myself through that. So I do think I pray that it opens between this, R. Kelly, Russell Simmons, and the list of other horrible people, that it opens up Dr. Dre, that
Yeah.
it opens up the conversation as a community.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah,
we're taught, and you guys can please chime in. We keep our business in the house no matter how horrible it is.
yeah, and
Pray
and
on
and,
it.
and we talked about this, Katya, as well. I think that the because this world is a male dominated world, and we treat generally as a country treat women horribly,
Hmm.
and you can see it in everything that we do. Um, I was just talking to my wife 2 days ago about pay, and how women are still paid, and particularly black women are paid 60, I think 66 cents to the dollar. I think women generally are like 82 cents to the dollar. So we already know how we value women because they're doing the same job, and how we pay for them. So why would people think that black men would be any different
Right.
than our society? Because actually black men are trying to get to the same level from a man perspective in our society.
Mm.
I'm not saying that that's right. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that and I've said this repeatedly, is that the culture is so embedded in how we treat women that um, that's why the discussion, and Kamal brings this up. That's why the discussion about whether or not uh, why some black men are saying, well, wait a minute, wait 1 second. What about that black white dude? What about that white dude? What about that white dude? And he brings that up in the piece. He
Mm.
says that it can exist that black men are being treated wrong and unfairly in relationship to white men, and it can also be that black men have created heinous crimes against women. So
Yeah.
those two things can exist at the same time. Sometimes what we might want to do is say, well, because you're not treating these black men the same, we're going to overlook the fact that they are doing the same. And a
Right.
crime is a crime is a crime. So that's what I'll throw out to you, and I'll give you the last word if you have any thoughts. But I hope that you'll check it out. Katya, where's your piece running so people
It's
can check
on
that?
the Philadelphia Tribune. I will say this to you, Sam, and I understand why you haven't seen it. I do not recommend you watching all 4 episodes in one
Oh,
sitting. Don't do that.
I did.
Absolutely not. Like I wouldn't even be remiss if you saw one episode. If you're watching episode one, you pause and you go for a walk or whatever just to mentally cleanse yourself, and then 6 hours later, I'm gonna tackle the rest of that episode because I watched it over like a week span. I
I
Hmm.
did not
watched it
do
all the
four
way through.
episodes of one. That is like you're gonna need a shot of bourbon when you're done.
Right.
I agree. I watched it all the way through, and it's a very very tough watch to watch that thing. Sit down for 4 hours and watch all those episodes. But last comment to you, Sam.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that was the thing. It's like I had, during the time when I had the opportunity to be able to check it out, I was just checking out documentary Attica. Then
Mm.
I checked out MLK, FBI, and I was like, I don't, I don't know if mentally or emotionally this will be good for me right now because I got to focus on all these other things. At the time, it was like even award season, so I was like, I need a break. I'll come back to it. I'll address it. I think the reality is that for my household, like my wife, like she loved the Cosby Show. You know what I mean? Like that was what she grew up on. And I remember the Cosby Show. I remember, all Bill Cosby's movies. I remember, Meteor Man. Bill Cosby was the heart and soul that him and his dog, you know what I'm saying? And so it's like the reality is we don't have that many people like to rally behind. And so I think it's just hard as, you know, future enthusiasts or content creators or future actors or developers to see somebody that we looked up to, the reality, the veil being lifted to understand like not only are they human, but they are fundamentally flawed in a way that does not make us look good or
Yeah,
empowered or, you know, in the worst possible way. So it's like, how do you balance that reality? It's kind of like, you know, say, you know, your hero was your father, and all to find out like in your 40s or 30s that your father was doing some terrible things to women or doing some terrible things to your community. How do you accept that? You
yeah.
know, can you still love your dad the same way? Do you accept what your dad did? If somebody asks you, well, this person taught you to be all this, well, where do you lay that foundation on your kids? You know, and I think
Yeah.
that that is where a lot of people are stuck with this because they looked at him like a, you know, he's the dad, like he's the
America's
original
father.
father. You know what I'm
America's
saying?
father. Yeah.
And so I think that that's where it's hard because right now in my household, it's like, do we mention his name? Do we just not speak of him? Is he completely out of there? And at the end of the day, like we could do that, and that's the easy way of, you know, handling it. But the reality is that you have to, I guess what you guys are explaining, that he balanced it. Like he gave the clear good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think that that's how we're going to have to accept it. And that's going to have to kind of move forward from it. It's like all the principles and all the things that this man was able to do, you know, you can take the good from somebody that did something so heinous, and you can also look at the bad and be like, no, we cannot accept this. This is not something that we can choose. Because the way, again, I'll use the same exact situation. If my dad did this, I can choose to be like, you know what? Like, he raised me this way. He taught me principles this way. These things are fundamentally great about me. But those other things, like, no, oh, wow, I need to be careful. I don't need to allow power to put me in this platform to be
Yeah.
exposed to my own
I,
temptations.
I
Because,
think Sam, you put it really well, and Kamal talks about that as well. We're gonna have to move on to our next few things because we got like three things we're gonna try to get in. I'm not sure, Sam, if you saw the movies we're gonna talk about, but wherever you can jump in, please do. We're the last thing we are going to talk about is the Oscar nominations. So I already know you can help. You can jump in and talk about that. But the first movie that we want to talk about is, and I'll start this one off, is the romantic comedy "Marry Me."
I saw that.
Okay, excellent. And so this movie stars, uh, J Lo, uh, Jennifer Lopez, and Maluma, as well as Owen Wilson. And it is where J Lo is this superstar singer. Maluma is also a superstar singer. They're engaged. They're going to get married at a concert. They're going to sing the song, and but minutes before that happens, she learns that he was cheating on her, and all bets are off. She looks out in the audience. Owen Wilson has a sign, accidentally, by the way, that says "Marry Me." She says, "Yep, I'll marry you, dude." And she marries this dude on stage. And the question is this just will the publicity stunt turn into love?
Mm-hmm.
So, what's to like about this? The first thing to like about for me is Jennifer. I I like Jennifer. I mean, I think she's likable. She and some of those outfits she had on was fly, by the way. She had on a pair of glasses that I was watching. It's funny, Katya, you said we get to watch some of these things with our family. I was watching, and I said to Donna, my wife, I said, "Oh, those glasses are fly." She said, "Yes, they are." So now I think I have to go out for Valentine's Day and try to find these glasses. But anyway, that's a whole nother thing. So she's likable. You even think that the way that this character is developed, that there's so many things in her real life that are mirrored in here. Guy cheating on her, her looking for some privacy, her trying to have some vulnerability, so on and so forth. You could see some of those things in her real life playing out here as well.
Yeah.
And so it's cute. It's I want to say almost benign, but what I will say is that we've seen it before and we've seen it done better. For me, done better is a Notting Hill. We've seen a great star who is trying to hide her have a love life, but trying to hide that privacy. But I think what they did in a Notting Hill is that they wrote it better. Here they had all the little ingredients that you probably needed to make it successful, but they didn't have it in the right proportion. So we enjoyed it. But when we walked away from it, it wouldn't be like, oh man, this is the greatest love story ever. We think this is something great to see. It's coming out on Valentine's Day, and this will be my last comment on it. Is that that means it's going to be flowers and chocolates, and I like chocolate, so I'm going to sum this up for you guys in my best way from a chocolate perspective. There's a huge difference between Fannie Mae Pixies and Nestle Turtles.
Oh, wow.
One of them will make you say, man, I want some more. And the other one will say, well, when do I think I might eat the rest of these? Unfortunately for me, is that I think that Marry Me is closer to the Turtles than it is to the Pixies. So that's my thought. I'll let you jump in, Sam.
Yeah, so I did some research on it. I didn't realize that this is based on a graphic novel by I think it was Bobby Crosby. That he did it back in 2020.
Wow.
And basically, he kind of had like this person who was this diva, and the same exact scenario pans out, but it continues. The story actually continues outside, and so they used this and adapted it. And I was kind of like, this is really weird and jarring. But I found myself looking at it. I'm like, you know what? If this was like a situation where like me and my wife were looking, I'm like, you know what? I might actually really enjoy this with my wife. Like right now, like it's so much things going on within the realm of this pandemic, and like so many different things that people just want to turn their mind off for a little bit. I would say that we've seen this before. I would say this is not the best. But it's something about seeing J-Lo be J-Lo, like she's really just being herself completely. And you can tell it was almost written for her based on the way that the story pans out. And I think that the thing I did like about this is the musical numbers and the setup for the musical numbers were really well done. I think the backdrop and actually stage and the costume design, it was so like she had influence on this. Like I don't know if she had an exclusive executive producer role in this or anything, but I could tell like she had some input in this. And I think that the simplicity of Owen Wilson's character, sometimes it was really jarring, but then sometimes it did work. Like certain conversations they had early on, I was like, wow, these are some really good, engaging conversations. Like it's some real stuff. And I think the second half to the third act, like it just became really cliche and cheesy. But I think that you had a good enough amount of like, comedians in there like Sarah Silverman and Owen Wilson to kind of balance certain moments that were really cheesy out. But I think that unfortunately this would be good right now for like Valentine's Day. Like the timing of where they put this out is perfect. Like you're just kind of like, you know what, I'm gonna take my date out. You just look at this like this cheesy, weird thing. Like it's got some decent music. Like, oh man, I can't believe they're doing that. Like I can see people being in theaters with their significant other being like, okay, this is really cool. So yeah, I don't think it's the best, but I think it's cool and
it's
good
right
for right now.
It's right. Jump on in, Kathia.
Okay, so I feel like you, Reggie, been there, done this. I said literally, this is made in Manhattan set to music. I feel like she wanted to put out an album, and this movie is the commercial for the music. That's the way I look at it. There is zero stretch in here for her. There isn't. It's so predictable, and I think this is for her fans. Her fans are going to watch it, and they're going to think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, like fans do. But for me, as a critic and just as a person, I just feel like, would I feel comfortable telling people to spend money to see this? I'm like, no, go watch it on Peacock if you have it. You know
right.
what I mean? And that's the thing at the end of the day. For me, what made this movie more interesting is not Jennifer playing Jennifer. Like that to me, I have the same issue with her that I have with The Rock and Kevin Hart. And what even exasperates this more for me is she literally sat down with Rolling Stone And then an interview, you should read it, where she's like, she feels some type of way that she's never been mentioned in the group, as far as a singer, as a pop artist, with the Janets and what, I shouldn't say Janet Jackson, but the singers of her generation that have been given their accolades, their flowers. And my thing about it is, I covered music for 15 years prior to doing film. What album do you have that is on the level of Forever Your Girl with Paula Abdul that had 6 hits on it? That is a great album. And I don't think Paula Abdul is a great singer. Or Britney's One More Time, or Janet Jackson's first 2 albums, Control and Rhythm Nation, or even when she went over to Virgin. There isn't that body of work. Not to mention is, allegedly all the rumors that are around her that she didn't even sing on those albums, that it was Ashanti's voice and a background singer's voice, and how how her team tried to steal music for Anne-Marie. So there's a whole bunch of things that she's not speaking on. And also I feel like it's not cool. Like, I have my issues with Madonna, but Madonna changed the landscape for female artists. She opened the door for J-Lo to do what she does. That's just a fact. But you like Madonna
so I get you. So I have to ask. I gotta ask. What's your beef? What's your beef? Because
my beef with her is, you can't say I'm not mentioned with greatness and not do great things. You can't be mad that you're not in when they talk about great pop stars, great actresses, right? She's always in the cute okay club because you do cute okay work. We gave you your flowers and we've been waiting for you to give us what you did in Hustlers. And we're like, finally, you are stretching yourself. Now to answer your question, Sam, this is a New Eurekan production, which is her production company. Right. She has the same issue that I have with The Rock. You want to be a person of color when it works in your favor, and then you want to continue playing these racially ambiguous roles. You get to choose. This is your production company. You were the boss on this. You don't work with directors of color ever. You work with women, but you don't work directors.
But I want to push back.
You always pick the same corny ass white dude to be your co-star. Having said all of that, the corny ass white dude was the most interesting. Her assistant. Shout out to Michelle Buteau. Shout out to the young girl. I believe her name is Chloe Coleman.
Yeah.
They made this movie interesting. It's always in these movies where you put so much on the star. It's the co-stars that give it the comic relief. It's the co-stars that make it interesting. And again, had she not given this interview where she basically saying Hollywood, I'm always the outsider or whatever. I'm like, Jennifer, you have more than enough money. If you want to make a movie that challenges you as an actor, you have a production company. There are a ton of scripts that need to be developed. You don't got to make this recycled cripple.
Ooh, so you are just coming hard. You coming hard.
She going for the jugular.
If you want to be in this is my problem with all of these people. I'm not getting my flowers. I'm not getting seen. Well, then don't give us 99-cent McDonald's menu stuff. Give us.
All right. So I got to jump in.
I think this movie is okay. I don't think you should spend money on it because you can see it on Peacock. And to me, the best things in it are the co-stars because you don't get points from me for playing yourself.
All right. So
you can't play yourself. Why can't you play?
I get you, but here are a couple of things I want to push back on. Number one is that this is one of the first movies that I can remember where she's speaking Spanish. So she actually is with another Spanish guy. I appreciated that a lot. That instead of just being her, a white guy, and another white guy, she had the Latin flavor in there. Additionally, she did not have to have Owen Wilson have a mixed daughter. He had a mixed daughter and a black wife. Is that I noticed some stuff from a diversity perspective that I was really, really happy that she put in that
bare
movie.
Minimum, Reggie.
Well, hey, I'm a man because I like. Hold on. You went for a minute. It didn't have nothing to do with me being a man that I like that they did Spanish in this movie. Is that Maluma and her spoke Spanish on several occasions in there, and that he's a Latin artist. So I was very happy about that. It has nothing to do with me that me being a man that that
No, I'm not saying
that they
that. I'm sorry,
chose
I heard.
that they chose to have a girl who was of mixed race, and they had a black mom. Now, what I would have liked is I would have liked a little more exploration of that in the movie. But the fact that they had that representation for me said, "Oh, you know what? Thank you." Thank you, thank you, thank you. And in fact, I didn't write about that, but that would be one of the things that I talk about. So that's all to me. That's totally different from the other stuff that you talk about. I can't say anything about that, but I'll let Sam come in, jump in.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think there's truth in what you both are saying. Like, she's not playing anything that she's not living necessarily, but I did like the fact that she decided to add those little nuggets in that Reggie. It's very small and minuscule, but she's never done that in her movies before, and so for me, I was like, okay, I'm glad she's doing this, but I didn't really. At the end of the day, I wasn't looking at this movie was going to be a revolutionary portrayal from her. I was never thinking that she was going to be like. I mean, the girl. At the end of the day, and Katia said it that as far as her albums, I don't really remember a memorable album from her. I remember memorable things that she's done. I remember memorable songs. I remember movies like Enough. I mean, I'm glad what she did in Hustlers. I think she did a great job in that movie. I really do. Like, I think she went for it. But outside of that, she's not done anything to merit her putting herself on this platform that recognized me. But that also, I will say that she does do movies. She is an entrepreneur. She does do music. So I give her credit for that, but it's not something that she should put herself on a platform to say. That's something that's to be freely given to her. Um, and that's just my really reality with it. I don't have a problem with Jennifer Lopez. I think that she's got some really good capabilities of with herself as an artist, but she hasn't stood out to me just yet. But this is a cute little romantic thing that she's done. I don't any of the other romantic things that she's done. I have really bad memories about. Geely, I will never look at that movie again. Um, but this one I would possibly look at again with my wife, and I think we might be able to enjoy. And at the end of the day, from an entertainment standpoint, if this is something that I can be entertained with my wife, then it's possible that somebody else could. Would I recommend this to everybody to go out to see in movie theaters in a pandemic? No. There is a thing called Peacock, and Peacock I think is actually free unless you pay for the
It's out on
subscription,
Peacock. You can see it on Peacock, but
and you can enjoy
yeah.
it. But if you want that, closed in theater experience with your significant other, you can go to the theater to see it if you want to pay money for it. I'm not going to discourage anybody from doing that.
That would make it a matinee movie at best, and go try to check it out on off times. Anyway,
Right.
I want to move into this next movie because it was interesting to me. Katia, you are going to talk about the movie Death on the Nile.
Okay, so I like this movie better. First of all, I think it's visually stunning. I mean, everybody looked like 1930s glam. But it's also interesting is I also call it the one movie that's got the most problematic people in it. Armie Hammer, Gal Gadot, and Letitia Wright. I was like, if when they put this together, they had known, right? But poor Kenneth didn't. So if we push forward, it is very visually stunning, and it falls within that Agatha Christie where we're on vacation, where all the glamorous people, that Gatsby feeling, are together, and they're always at these exotic places. They're never at at the Kmart or whatever. Mm-hmm. But the costuming in this beautiful. This, and I thought for beginning I was like, well, he's an Irish guy playing a Belgium detective. How is this accent going to go? I actually liked his portrayal, Poirot, a little bit better. The ridiculous mustache, I liked a little bit of the backstory that we got on Poirot, because normally we just know he's a great detective. Is the plot, we know the plot. If you see, this is like the 16th incarnation, you kind of know who does it if you've seen it before. But what I like about it is that ridiculousness where he does the deduction and everybody's a victim and I have to talk to everybody as everybody is going. Is it like the best thing ever? No. but it is kind of like fun if you don't know the story, figuring out who did it. Just when you thought you have it figured out, then that person dies, and the list goes on and on. But I do think it's fun escapism. Is it anything deep or whatever? No, but it is like just to see Kenneth do his thing.
Yeah, I thought that they did a nice job. I very rarely compare movies unless they're in the same genre, so I don't compare this to that, you know, rom-com. This is totally different. It gives you a totally different kind of feel, and it worked for me. Um, I it was interesting enough. They had enough intrigue. I agree with you in terms of this thing of making everybody a suspect. So, like, did you do it? Did this? And so I thought I knew, right? And then it's like, well, maybe it's this person, maybe it's that person. I love movies that kind of get you off kilter a little bit to do that. And I also agree with you, Katia. I'm not saying like this is a blockbuster movie. This is a movie that you just, if you miss it, oh my goodness, it would be the worst thing in the world. I'm not saying that at all. But if you go see this movie, I think you will have fun, and I think that you would enjoy it. So I like this, and I also agree that the costuming, the set design, all that stuff, and I don't really talk about that stuff too much. I just think, but it did come through in this particular movie. Did you see this one, Sam?
I did not. I did see the murder on Orient Express. I thought that movie was decent at the time. There was some good little nuggets about it. I think Kenneth was one of the best things about it. I was curious about this movie, but again, I was kind of like Katia said, like there's a lot of actors in this that's got a lot of controversial things surrounding them, and I was kind of like, man, the movie's it's already kind of dug itself just on association with these individuals I'm not even going to bring up. But I was curious because I do know that they brought the same cinematographer that was doing the Orient Express, as well as I think Belfast as well. And I was like, wow, this looks from the trailers, it looked visually beautiful.
It is visually stunning.
And I was kind of like, I love a whodunit. Like I always have. Like I always been like, oh wow, I wonder what this is. And I'm curious to see how Kenneth spit this one. Because did he direct this at the same time he was doing Belfast, or like back to back?
No, he directed. Okay, so this movie was supposed to come out, I believe in 2020. Well, obviously it didn't, because so he directed this. He directed Belfast during the pandemic.
Wow.
So this was done in the can, right?
Got it.
And then obviously once Belfast came out, and I think it's the same studio. It's once Belfast came out, and of course it has Oscar buzz. They're not about to have them. Well, not that they're in competition with, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, they're not gonna do that tour about this when
they did not. The press tour has been very interesting because everybody but the people that obviously Army's not doing press, but everybody else that's in the flick been doing the press. But
yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Well, with that, I want to make sure we save just a little bit of time to talk about the Oscars. When we talk about Hooray for Hollywood, this is the time of the year. Full disclosure, so everybody who watches us, so we are also part of other professional organizations. So if you look at the AFCA awards, we actually do them in March, but the announcements for that are out. So I would really encourage you to check that out. This is Black History Month, so it'd be crazy for me not to mention that. If you look at the Critics' Choice Awards, they're coming up, and it looks as if, at least for Best Picture, and we'll talk a little bit more about that the Oscar people were looking at our list, except for one movie. But the Critics' Choice Awards are on March the 13th, and you can check that out on the CW and TBS. And so we really encourage you guys to check that out. When you do that, you also support us, because we're members of those organizations. And then finally, I'm a member of the Film Independent, so the Spirit Awards will be coming out as well. See, Katia is in so many things. I did not know that. So see, I learned something right here. So also support
we still got some more voting to do.
Yeah, we got some more voting to do. So I want to mention that before we got into the Oscars. And so, Sam, since you are new, I'm gonna put you on blast right here for you to bring us in about Best Picture. Thoughts about Best Picture, who was nominated, and all that.
Oh,
Go for it.
As far as Best Picture, I felt like I knew for a fact Belfast was gonna be up there. Belfast early on was the one that most people were like, "Oh, it's gonna sweep," And then Power of the Dog came along, and I'm not gonna say it just overcooked it, but I was like, Power of the Dog and Belfast are definitely gonna be there. As far as King Richard, I really hoped it would. I thought that not just it was enough likability, but the way that it's surrounded. Even though I felt like King Richard, they could have done so much more with that, like for real, on the actual man. But I think they were trying to be really careful with that. But I did really love it. The thing that surprised me in a positive way is Drive My Car. I was like, when Drive My Car showed up, I was like, wow, I'm really glad that this is here. But I'm so thrown off. And I was like, what does that mean? And then when I saw Coda up there, that was another surprise. I was like, I didn't like the cinematography for Coda personally, but I did love the impact of what it did. The ones that really threw me off that I don't necessarily think should possibly be there, and this is going to sound really bad, but I didn't think that Don't Look Up necessarily should be there. I felt like that could have been placed out for something else. Licorice Pizza, I knew that they could have went one way, left or right with it. So I'm not surprised, but I felt like possibly something else could have been there. Maybe the Tragedy Macbeth over that. I don't really know. West Side Story was the one that I was kind of like, I understand, the best supporting actress. I understand, the set design, but I did not get best picture vibes from this one, but it came up. And Nightmare Alley, I feel the same exact way. So there were some that I kind of felt like were just out of nowhere personally. But there were a few that I was like Dune, I was like, I knew they were going to put that there. Oh, even though it's kind of a surprise because most of the time the Academy don't really like science fiction, but I was like, universally Dune, everybody was like, the work was put in for it. So there are some that I didn't think should be there. I didn't
love
think
that.
I didn't know how I thought about it, but then there were some that I was like, absolutely should definitely be there.
Well,
but yeah.
I love that. All right, Kathia.
I feel like you, Sam. Okay, I'm going to tell you what West Side Story is in there. The power of Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
Period. I felt this voting went via the guilds. All right, let me explain myself. Nightmare Alley is nominated for Best Picture. None of the acting performances, nor is the director. Right? The only picture that has nominations top to bottom is The Power of the Dog. It has nominations for Below the Line, including director, best actor, best supporting actors, best supporting actress. Very, very interesting, right? Which to me tells me that Power of the Dog is the front runner for Best Picture because it's
Absolutely.
the most, is one thing that all the guilds said, we like this a lot in everything. So we look at Licorice Pizza is another one. No acting is just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also, you look at Nightmare Alley with a director like Guillermo del Toro, who's very well liked by the Academy, but they're like, we like it, but we didn't love it.
Right.
And I think if Drive My Car this is the other question we're having with international pictures. Mm-hmm. How in the world do you keep nominating a picture for Best Picture, but you don't nominate any of the performances? You nominated the director. Same thing with Parasite. You gave it all these awards, but you're like, all them people in the food movie are like background dancers. So we got.
I don't want you to gloss over that point because I know we only have a little bit of time, but I really want you to talk about that because I think that is very, very important what you just mentioned.
I mean, I think there is this very ignorant idea that if you're going to go out of your way to reward a picture like Drive My Car, which I absolutely love, and it's actually one of those pictures that's long, but it doesn't feel long. The story actually works in its favor, but then you don't acknowledge the main performance that made the film, the reason why you were invested in the story. So I don't understand what is going on with the acting guild that they don't reward foreign actors. And last thing I want to say is the DGA, and I say this every year, has to do better by women directors. If you are a woman that directed a film and then also did the screenplay, whether it's original or adapted, they throw them in that category and then load up the category best director with men and throw one woman in there. Jane Campion should have won for The Piano, and I understand she was up against Steven Spielberg for Schindler's List, and right. Steven is getting his flowers. But Jane has been a consistently good director for a very, very long time. She makes interesting films, and she should win this. But again, why is it that we are counting numbers when it comes to women and when it comes to directors, specifically Black directors? The DGA has a problem, and they need to do better.
Yeah, no, I really, really appreciate that, Kathia, and Sam. I really appreciate that discussion. I'll throw something in really quickly because I do want to get a few more things in before Sam, you have to dip out. We're going to try to do like 10 more minutes, and then hopefully you can stay with us for that. What I want to mention is that I know that Hollywood loves Power of the Dog. I think that Jane could and should win as a director, but that movie did not move me, not one bit. It did not do anything for me, but I could see why Hollywood likes it. The movies that moved me, and Kathia, you told me to watch this one, and it was Coda. Coda I felt that movie. It wasn't okay to me. It was really, really good. Right. For you, Sam, one of the movies that moved me was Belfast. I felt that they were able to take a specific story and make it universal. I could see how in every corner of the world, people could recognize their story in Belfast. And I thought they did a great job. And then I really liked King Richard. I thought they did a really good job. I really understand your comment, Sam, about maybe they might have done a little bit more with Richard. But I'm glad that they did it the way they did it, because they had to make Orsine. They couldn't have made Orsine a afterthought, and I'm really glad that they didn't do that. But I'm sure, because the executive producers are three of the girls, is that they were like, oh no, we're not gonna do my mom like that. And right. And I'm very, very glad that they did that. I feel the same that you feel about Nightmare Alley. Okay, whatever. I really like West Side Story, but not like that. Kathia, and see, I don't even want to introduce this because you and I will talk about this forever. But because you come from the dance musical world and you go see the musicals all the time, I like a lot Tick, Tick, Boom.
I was gonna say,
Me
yeah.
too.
Okay, I didn't know because
you and I hadn't talked.
You and I hadn't talked, but I liked it a lot. I didn't like it a little bit. I was like, they killed it in that movie. I would have replaced Tick, Tick, Boom, The Tragedy of Macbeth, and I like Cyrano, by the way, a lot. So there's a few movies in there that I probably would have had out there. But let's really quickly at least get 3 categories in. I'll do. I want to get 3 of these categories in. We talked about Best Director, and I think that the only 2 that are really up for winning here are Kenneth and Jane. Those are the only 2 that, to me, that are deserving. We talk about pizza. I've said this before, is that I like licorice and I like pizza, but I do not like them together. Sam, I am. I'm gonna let you guys get in, but I want to speak to the 3 more categories. For Best Actress, Olivia Colman was really good in this movie that I did not like. But Penelope Cruz, I don't know. I might be giving my actor to Penelope Cruz. Everybody's talking about Nicole Kidman, whatever. Penelope just killed it. For Best Actor, it is a tough one for me because everybody on that list is deserving. So I'm gonna have to go in the back room and make some backroom deals because I don't know. Is that I think they did a really good job of nominating for Best Actor, and those are the ones that I want to throw out. And I'll let you go next, Kathia. Any other categories you might want to talk about?
Okay, Best Supporting Actress is probably the most color. So I think it's amazing that you have an Afro Latina queer woman in Ariana nominated. I think that's really, really important. And one with melanin, you know what I mean? Like we know. I am very thrilled for Anjanae Alice. 20 years in the making, and Hollywood finally sees her, what we've been telling folks for decades. I think
Decades.
that
Yeah.
category is the most interesting, even though Ariana is considered to be the front runner, and it would be really important because it's been forever since a Latin person won, at least in the acting category. And God bless everybody, but Javier and Penelope are not Latin. They're Spanish. They're European. I would like to see Penelope win. And I don't think the Lost Daughter is going to resonate because, again, we got to remember men vote as well for this. So the acting branch, right? I would like to see Penelope win. However, what we would like and what is going to happen are two different things. And that's why I will be not surprised when Nicole Kidman comes across that threshold to win her second best actress trophy. She's very well respected, very well liked. She's one of the few that consistently, I think we're going to have one of those things this season. You know how you had a front runner that won everything? Is going to be this is going to be divided amongst, and Nicole is going to walk across that threshold. It's just my feeling. I stopped having emotional investments because you just get your heart broken.
Right.
For best actor, the race is between Will and Benedict. Everybody else, thank you for coming to the party. I would have liked to see Peter instead of Javier. I don't get that at all. Like, I'm so confused by that. But I do think it's like, if you are a Power of the Dog fan and you're voting for that in other categories, you got to go with Benedict. If it's one of those things where you're like, welcome back, Will, we're going to go. And I would be remiss to not mention Denzel Washington. This is his 10th nomination. He is the most nominated Black actor in the Academy history. So kudos to him because he now has a 6-decade career. And that's really impressive for a Black actor, for any actor to begin with. And also, I would say for cinematography, don't be surprised if we have a woman walk across, because Ari Wagner was a cinematographer on The Power of the Dog. And I think that's important to see too. You know what I mean? To see the below the line and behind the scenes. That's my.
All right, cool. Hey, Sam, I can't get in here before you have to tell me, oh, Reg, I got to go to work.
I'm sitting there looking at my other computer. So real quick, I just wanted to say something about Best Picture because I didn't say ones that I would have replaced in. I'm just going to mention them. I think that Come On, Come On is a far superior film to Don't Look Up. I think that Mass is a far superior film to Licorice Pizza. And the fact that, I think that the way that the marketing is and the way that people, are kind of like looking at these films like, oh, I don't really feel like watching this. But it's like both of those films, to me, easily could have been in those Best Picture categories. I'm just going to say that. I think this is Jane Campion's year. I think she's going to win it. She should win it.
She's going to. Hollywood does. And you guys probably, I'm sorry to cut you off. When they don't get it right the first time, and if you lived long enough and you survived the BS and all of that, the other thing too is, guys, Netflix has been knocking on the door for Best Picture. This is their best shot at it.
Absolutely.
They have two pictures in Best Picture category. I don't think Don't Look Up is going to win because people don't like Adam McKay like that. But this is their best shot at finally getting the coveted Best Picture prize with a director that people like and love, And if she wins, I'll tell you my Jane Campion story. I have a little insight and a little special fondness for Jane out of a little experience I got to have with her. But I think it's going to be one of those things, And I hate when they do that, like, oh, you lived long enough, you get an honorary Oscar. You done given us 18 roles and cut your arm off and everything, you get to survive, right? So, Sam, I think you're right. It's definitely one of those things. And to answer everybody's question is that we get part of this. You don't just have to be good. You don't just have to be in a movie that speaks to people. You got a campaign. And if you think up to this point has been crazy, we about to see some stuff, even during a pandemic.
All right,
Right.
let's get Sam back in. Come on.
Yeah. So no, yeah, I mean, I think that she should win. The only thing that the Academy always do this, it's normally either they win Best Director or they win Best Picture. I'd rather her win Best Director, and maybe they give Best Picture to King Richard or Belfast instead. I can't see them giving it to her Best Director and Best Picture. I will say that. I think that Paul Thomas Anderson, he should have been replaced out by Denis for Dune. I don't know why Denis. It was 10 nominations for Dune, and him as Best Director isn't up there. That just doesn't compute to me. I probably would have put Lin-Manuel up here for Tick Tick Boom, as opposed to West Side Story. But that's Steven Spielberg. They're not gonna put him over Lin-Manuel. The interesting thing about Best Actress is that unfortunately they're gonna probably give it to Nicole Kidman or Kirsten Stewart. At the end of the day, and I know it sounds bad to say, but it's true. It's either going to go to Nicole or it's going to go because the reality is they didn't have to add Kirsten in there. When they added her in there, I was like, oh, her foot is in the door. So somebody's advocating for one or the other. I think that Penelope, she should or could, but it's going to go between these two, unfortunately. I think Javier Bardem is best actor. I don't think that he should be there. I think that he could have been interchanged out with almost anybody. Not to say that his performance wasn't okay or good. I just don't think that he stacks up with any of the other four. I think this is Will's year. I know it sounds crazy because Benedict, it makes sense. Benedict makes sense. But because Will he's doing all his due diligence. He's done all the different things. I think that he's gonna win this.
Wow.
That's legit my prediction because honestly, Andrew Garfield's performance in Tick Tick Boom was amazing, and Denzel. People are championing behind Denzel, but I think that they're gonna give it to Will. It's just a question of out of the four, who deserves it. And I think it's like it's playing the long game. Like who ran the marathon the longest, but who put in the most effort.
Wow.
And I think that's the big, real pivotal question with this whole thing. But I think it's really great. It's great competition. For Best Supporting Actress, I think that Ariana should win. I think that her performance was the best thing in that movie to me. Like, I mean, yeah, the choreography and it was beautiful, but we've seen this before. But her performance was the thing that really moved me and everything about that film. I did want to say that cinematography, it's going to be an interesting waste for cinematography because I felt like Spencer had great cinematography and a great score, and neither one of those got nominated. But yeah, Power of the Dog is probably going to win for that, or it could go to Dune. The only thing that I felt like was weird was the best animated. I felt like the best animated, that there was a movie that I saw called Belle, and I felt like that was a far superior animated film to everything that's up there. I don't know why Luca is up there, but I feel like a lot of the time they give a gimme out to the international animated films, and I felt like they were like, all right, Flea is a safe bet, but Flea's gonna win for best documentary. And I think they didn't want to add 2 international animated features. I think that's the reason why that happened. The only other thing I wanted to talk about is why is it that the Harder They Fall's original song from Jay-Z wasn't a part of the nomination?
Okay, can I ask a question? Is it all original music? Is any part of it sampled? Could that be it? Because I feel like one shoe in is Hans Zimmer's score for Dune. I think that is the best score. He is going to win his umpteenth Oscar. If you like nothing else about that film, that freaking score is insane.
Yeah.
Right? But I thought about that the other day. I was like, was part of the reason why Jay's song wasn't submitted or didn't make it? Is there anything in there that is not original music? Are there some rules against that? You know,
from the interviews that he did and the ones that the Q&As I was part of, it sounded like he created it from the ground up. Like he put a lot of work into it. But then I think that Disney dropped the ball with Lynn's song. They should have put
we don't talk about Bruno.
We don't talk about Bruno. Should have been the one song. I don't think they thought it was
the song in the country, and it's not up.
Right, and it just makes no sense. But yeah, I could talk for days about all this.
You're right though. Can we talk about? Please expound on that though, if you don't mind, if you have the time. how
Which
Disney has such a strong hold on Best Animated. Was it 3 of their films are nominated? So everybody else is just basically there to be background dancer. I really like Mitchell's versus Machines. I'm so surprised it made it.
right.
And I do think it's going to be Encanto, but you're right. A lot of people talked about Belle and people, and I think part of that is because that studio doesn't have the money to compete with the Disney machine.
Who does?
But please expand about how whenever Disney, it's their category to win.
Well,
Yeah.
I think you've already kind of talked about that a little bit in talking about some of the big actors and actresses. Disney. You can parallel those actresses and actresses with the machine of Disney in a way. Is that you got a brand name, you got a serious likability. If you do that Q score thing, everybody's watching Disney movies, and they're so many of them are so catchy that even we've heard that the people who vote in the Academy, they don't always watch every movie. And now that I'm in a number of these organizations, I'm trying to catch up to make sure I watch every movie, but I might not get to them all. So, but people gonna get to those Disney ones.
Right.
They're definitely gonna watch those Disney movies. I just think the machine for Disney is so huge, and quite frankly, they have some good ones as well. So
Yeah.
it's not like they're garbage.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I mean, not agree with you, Sam, but I agree with you that there are other movies that could be better. I'm just saying that it's not like Disney's movies are terrible. That we be saying, oh no, don't go see Encanto. I
Yeah.
I liked Encanto a lot, by the way.
Yeah, I think I think it boils down to this. Like and we do this. We literally vote for stuff. So you go and you see all these different screeners. You see the screener links, and you're like, okay, what's the most easiest digestible thing I can get to right now? You look at a Disney movie, Encanto. Okay, cool. Okay, you got a cool package from the Mitchell vs. Machine. Okay, this is a Netflix picture. Okay, let's go ahead and do it. Like, oh, Raya? Yeah. Oh, my niece loved that movie. What does that represent? Oh, wow, women empowerment, the strength of family and sacrifice. Okay, let's do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's easily digestible versus, this Japanese film or this film that's foreign that you're like, oh wow, man, this is really deep. What does that mean? Like, I don't know. I got other dramas and other things, and so I think that unfortunately, the perspective needs to be looked at that all films, whether they're animated, foreign, or easily digestible or not, need to be judged the same exact way. And I think that because it's just so much content, that they're not really looking at it. I think that really is what it's starting up to. Because honestly, in Kantu, yes, it should absolutely be there. I think Raya and the Last Dragon was a good film. Should it be there over some other foreign films? Maybe not. I think the Mitchell's versus Machine is gonna give that, and Flea are gonna give Encanto a run for its money because a
That's right.
lot of people are behind Flea.
Yeah.
But Luca, I don't know that anybody remembers Luca. I've looked at Vivo from Lin-Manuel on Netflix
That's
more than
funny.
I've looked at Luca.
That's
And
funny.
and I'm just saying that the reality.
You have young kids.
Yeah, I've got young kids, so it's kind of like all these films I have to watch anyway. But the reality is, I also look at it from a critic perspective, and I think that that's why it's just easier just to put them on the list versus really digging in and trying to look. And I think that that is where it's a misfire, unfortunately. And even when there was something I was going to say, when I think about the best visual effects, Dune, yes. No Time to Die, yes. But why would you not put Chloe Zhao's Eternals up there? Because visually, out of all the the Marvel films, I don't care what you think about the film, but visually it stood up. Even when I think about Godzilla versus Kong, why is that up there instead of Free Guy? So it's like some stuff they just give it to stuff as a gimme, as opposed to like, oh, let's look back from where this started.
Well,
to
I was gonna say, Sam, that you had the last word, but I didn't look at the comments. Katia Pamela Kramer Powell says hi to you. So
Hi.
in the comments. So I'll leave you with the last word, and then we'll close out.
No, I'm so glad Sam brought up these very important points because we all do that. We like, what? Then you got to Google back, right?
Right.
And then you go, oh, then you go, did this come out in
Right.
here? Is it eligible? Right? Like what is happening here? I do it. So I'm really, really glad. And I'm always curious, especially people who have younger kids. Because I don't have small people in my house anymore. So I used to tell people like when critics, I was like, yeah, but let's be as a parent, when I put on my parent hat, don't nobody care. Them kids don't care about that.
Right.
And I see why Encanto is such a thing because the songs are little pops and your little people are singing them, you know what I mean? And next thing
Right.
you know,
And
you're
me.
singing them and you in the car because when you have smaller kids, you're not listening to R&B anymore. You in the kids pop space.
Right.
And then that permeates your brain. So I totally understand why people may be like, this is what I'm voting for because my kids are into it and that, but they're not going to watch, as you said. I'm very curious, and I'm so glad you brought up Flea. What will happen with Flea? Flea, I loved Flea. It is one of my favorite films of last year, and I'm telling you, it's going to be super. Like, if Flea wins in another category, will that open up the door for Summer of Soul, which is a fantastic film? But if it doesn't win in these other categories, then I'm afraid it is going to win in Best Doc.
No, that's some good stuff. We're gonna have to stop, huh? I'm saying we're gonna have to stop it here because
Thank you, Sam.
Oh yeah, no problem.
hey,
This is awesome.
hey man, thanks for joining us. Hopefully you can join us again. We do this every Friday. This is the Reel Critic Roundtable where African American critics come to discuss, debate, and have some fun. We got Kathia Woods there. I mean, you can find her almost everywhere. What we did not do is ask Sam where you can be found, social media, website, all that type of stuff. So if you could say that before we close out.
Yeah, it's no problem. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at super FEL0320, which I made something a little bit more easier, streamlined. You can find us on YouTube, all our interviews, reviews, and discussions on Team JVS on YouTube. We also have a website, teamjvs.com. A lot of those are more of our written reviews, but it's also all content. So yeah, this was awesome. I would love to come back. So just let me know.
Yeah.
Good. Well,
make sure you subscribe to Sam's channel. Don't shadow peek. Hit that subscribe button.
Please.
I love that. Thank you so much, Kathia. Hey, I appreciate you guys as usual. Again, this is Reel Critic Roundtable, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Sam. Have a good weekend.
No, thank you.